Welcome to the Somos Sunnyside podcast, brought to you by the Communications Department of the Sunnyside Unified School District. Thank you for tuning in while we share stories about the bright side of education.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. That's right, we are Sunnyside, and today we're at Desert View High School as we're celebrating our seniors, we're celebrating graduation, and all those amazing events that happen at the end of the year. I'm your host, Jose Castellum, the proud superintendent of the Sunnyside Unified School District, and today we have another interview with students. You know, these are my favorite interviews because we learn so much about the student experience. We learn so much about the feedback that we get from our students. And so today I have two students joining me from Desert View High School that have success written all over them, and we're gonna hear a little bit about that today. So joining me today is we have Anysa Medrano, and we also have Josue Bajo Quijada. That was a mouthful, Josue, but I got it right, correct?
Yes.
So how are you guys?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've had my coffee, and so I'm up and ready, man. I'm got the gasoline in the system.
I'm doing good. I've had a good morning so far.
That's awesome. So, I love this time of year because, we're here to talk about, your experiences. Obviously, you guys, we're going to talk a little bit about the scholarships that you guys have earned. And these are pretty prestigious scholarships. One of the things that I want to put out there to the public and to our listeners is that Sunnyside kids, and what I mean by Sunnyside kids, Sunnyside Unified School District kids can do hard things. And Sunnyside Unified School District students can be successful, and we see that year in and year out. And so today the goal is to share your story about, what it takes, for all those young people listening out there, for the parents listening out there, like, how did you reach this success? And you guys did it with a full plate. So it's just, you just weren't coming here being students. You guys are working full-time, or part-time, I should say, but you're involved in extracurricular activities. And so, I always like to start these podcasts out with you guys just sharing your journey. Share a little bit about you, your background, where'd you go to school, a little bit about, your interest, and we'll start there. So let's go ahead and start with Anysa here, and we're going to talk a little bit about her success here, but tell us a little bit about you.
Hi everyone. Like you just said, I'm Anysa. I am a Sunnyside student through and through. I went to Alvaro Elementary School, and then I went to Challenger, and then I'm here at Desert View now. And as far as who I am, what do you want to know?
Hey, we want to know it all. So tell us a little bit about, your experience. How did you grow up as a child? How, were you always very into school? Did you always care about grades and your studies, or what was that moment that, got you to think, hey, you know what? I need to be a little bit more engaged in this or that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up here on the south side of Tucson with my nana and my mom. My mom is a single parent, and it's always just been me and her, kind of like a little team. Mm-hmm. And my early childhood started in my nana's home, and there is where I saw my mom working. She worked 2 jobs. She would do graveyard shifts to make ends meet. And at the time, it was really hard. As a little girl, I remember just like seeing everything. And in that moment, I think since I was so young, I thought I had it all. Because, I had my mom, I had, my nana's good cooking, her love.
That's right.
And so I thought I was living the life, but in all reality, we really were struggling. Yeah. And I think that veil of innocence kind of lifted once I started living with my abuelito. Mm-hmm. And in that home, it was still hard. Me and my mom, I was like a teenager. We were still sharing a bed, a room, everything. So I'm sure you can imagine. And I think in those moments is when I really started to think, like, I need to be a success story. I need to make it out. My mom has done so much. My family, they've done so much. So I think just in those moments, it was like, okay, I'm ready, world, take me now.
Yeah, and you came on the attack, because, and we're going to get into that here a little bit later, when you're talking about that, it's obviously there was some struggles, and to the single moms or single parents out there, it can be done, right? It can be done. You just it's support systems, right? And your nana and obviously your mom provided that for you. One of the stories I always share, and we didn't grow up with money. I mean, we grew up, our parents were hardworking, we're struggling, but I think one of the things though I always latch on to is this piece of when you're poor and you don't know it, right? Or when you're struggling and you don't know it. And that's when parents are doing a great job of raising you, right? And so it's this piece of they're going to work hard, they're going to sacrifice, and in their mind, in their heart, man, they're struggling, they're working hard, but they don't ever want their kids to know that, and they want their kids to have, as natural as an upbringing as possible. They putting food on the table, putting clothes on your back, and they may not be the 5-star restaurants or the Lululemon stuff, but it's what you need.
Yeah.
And so a big shout out to those parents out there that are doing that. I know my parents did that for me. I always say, man, we were poor, but we didn't know it, right? And yeah, every once in a while we still got our Peter Pipers and McDonald's, and it was cool, right? Back in the day, it was Shakey's. You guys are too young, you don't know what that is, but Shakey's was the spot back in the day. The other thing is, as you grow up, and you mentioned this, Anysa, is you get to an age where you start noticing it, right? Where it starts making sense to you, and you're like, why is my mom working double shifts, and why is my nana raising me, and why are we sharing a room, and why are we doing this? So it teaches you to be strong, to be a strong person, to persevere, and little do we know, those are all life skills that help you be successful, right? At the end of the day, now that you're, a lot older and you're a young adult, now it all makes sense to you, right? And so you have some great outcomes that we're going to talk about. So I want to shift over here to Josue. And so Josue, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Where'd you go to school? What were your interests? And let's go from there.
Okay, so yeah, like Anysa, I also basically grew up living with my nana. My mom, I'm the youngest of 2 other siblings, and my mom had my sister at a very young age, so she started working full-time right away. And my nana kind of served as a person to take care of us momentarily while she's getting like her money together and her situation together. We lived in Agua Prieta, and between there and Douglas. And I went to preschool there. I went to Cricri. It was a really nice experience there. I really liked growing up there. I feel like we always had something to do in the summer. We moved here in 2015-ish, and I went to Craycroft Elementary. And then shortly after, I went to Laufer Middle School. And that was a really nice middle school. I think I had one of my biggest, transformations in me during that time. Mostly because my mom, she was also working super late nights or like super long hours. And there was this moment where she used to give us $6 per A we got on every report card, totaling for middle school at $24. And I used to be super, like, that was like a really good incentive to me because I love money. And I always spent it on video games. But there was this one night where she was stressing out on the couch about bills. And even though my $24 were like measly in comparison, I offered them to her because I saw the work that she put in for us. She's a single mother, and she's done so much for us to put food on our plates and like put a roof over our heads and always have clothes on us. And it's like I noticed that, like, how hard she worked, and that was my kind of moment where it's like, okay, I want to start working hard for her.
Right.
So I think that was one of the moments where I started really thinking about like scholarships, because I remember going to my room that night and searching up like I guess what is like one of the cheapest ways to go to college, because I didn't want her to pay for it or anything. So I started kind of shifting my mindset in school to do more good and to prepare myself to do good academically in high school, and to get scholarships like the one I have now, where I'm basically debt-free out of college, and I have a lot of opportunities opening for me.
Absolutely. So about how old were you when you were thinking about, Googling this how am I going to pay for college?
Let's see, that was around 5th grade.
Wow, 5th grade.
So I remember I was around 9 or 10.
Okay, wow. I think one of the things about struggles is you have to grow up pretty fast, huh? Mm-hmm. You have to grow up quickly, and nobody wants to see their parents struggling, and or your siblings or anybody in the family, right? And so, I think what's not fair is sometimes life isn't fair, right? I mean, is the stresses that are added to young people like you guys, right? You're a 5th grader and you're worried about how you're going to pay for college. I guess it can also be seen as a positive thing, right? Because look where you're at today. But no 5th grader should have to worry about how am I going to pay for college. And go ahead.
No, yeah, I think I fully agree with that. But I do think it was really transformative in terms of my work ethic. I kept just thinking about how to be proactive with what I'm doing and make sure that I'm maintaining like a sense of like responsibility.
Absolutely.
Like I'm doing something productive and I'm putting my heart into it because it's for my mom.
Yeah. And obviously in this case for both of you, your moms are your motivation, right? Your family is your motivation. Your nana's your motivation, and you want to do it for them. And I remember growing up and saying like, one of my goals was always just to make my parents proud, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever that was, and because you know how much they do for you, and so you guys are talking about. Anything you said it was our little team, but it's little team doing big things, right? And so, I just want to commend both of you for being vulnerable, for sharing a little bit about your upbringings, because I think it puts it in perspective to our listeners, to our parents, and I hope parents are listening to this. I hope students are listening to this, because hey, sometimes it starts off rough, but if with the little work ethic, with the little commitment and learning how to persevere over those difficult situations, this is the result, right? At the end, it's all worth it. And speaking of all worth it, we're going to get into talking a little bit about your scholarships, because these are pretty phenomenal scholarships. And so I'm going to start with Josue. You are the Dorrance recipient, right? You are a Dorrance Scholar, which is a competitive scholarship. And, obviously you go through an application process. You have to interview, probably had several interviews. And then you were selected. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I've been a high school principal, but when I first learned of the Dorrance Scholarship, and researched it, it was something around $130,000 in scholarship money. It pays for all your schooling. It pays for an opportunity to study abroad. Yeah. So you're like, it's a full ride. Yeah, you're taken care of now. Now you just got to execute. You got to go finish, right? Oh yeah. And so congratulations. Tell us a little bit about. You started talking about it in 5th grade. And one of the things I want to point out here, too, that I think is super important is, and this may sound harsh, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's no excuse for students not to go to college. Tuition is not an excuse. Being that it's going to cost you money is not an excuse. And I know people out there are probably saying, well, it's easy for you to say. And it isn't easy for me to say because, I had to rely on some financial aid. I had to rely on a baseball scholarship, but there was times throughout my college career where I had to get a loan out too, right, and pay for some stuff. So there's loans, there's FAFSA, there's many, many ways to do it. So you have to exhaust all those opportunities and avenues to help get assistance, right? And so, but, off that soapbox and onto another one here. But I want to go back to, you being a Dorrance Scholar, and Josue has a history of that. Josue has a history of, they've had several Dorrance Scholars throughout the years, and you're continuing that trend. So tell us a little bit about, that process. Tell us a little bit about, how did you feel when you received the news, and how did you share that? Because those are moments like you want to share with, I'm sure you started thinking about your childhood. You started thinking about, man, my mom's going to, she's going to love hearing this news, right? And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think the first step was that you have to write a couple of short passages and then some long essays. But that was pretty easy. I feel like since sophomore year, I was kind of developing a lot of personal narratives that I wrote about. And then after that, you have to answer some questions, and then you go into the finalist stage, which is the interview. It's actually pretty funny. Out of the interview, that's when I knew I got it, because they didn't even have to tell me. I feel like it was one of the best interviews I've ever done. And my mom, we had to ride up to Phoenix to go there. So she was waiting at me by a cafe. And I was like, Mom, I'm pretty sure I got it. Because, like, I felt like I did phenomenal. Like, I mean, I basically... I feel like I touched all their hearts with my story.
Yeah.
It was really good. And I can't go on about this, like, without thanking the counselors, especially Miss Benavides.
Okay.
There's been a lot of help I've gotten from them, from Desert View, because junior year to senior summer, I did this internship program that really helped me. It was actually one of the longest things I was like spieling on about in that interview room. It's like, it was like this medical internship where you do research, and I wouldn't have known about it without the help of the
Where
counselors.
was that program at?
It was at the U of A.
At U of A, okay.
Yeah. But the counselors, like, they made a post about it on Google Classroom, and I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for them. And Miss Benavides, when she heard I was a finalist, she set up a mock interview with me, and that really helped me get the nerves out and, like, really understand the kind of questions that they're going to ask. And I felt really prepared going into it. Like, I feel like I didn't have that much stress.
Yeah. I love the confidence, man. I really do. You know, I mean, a lot of times it's real easy to second guess yourself. We often talk about like imposter syndrome and those types of things. But, you know, I love hearing this piece of, you know, you felt prepared, you went in confident, and you walked out like, I think I got this, right? I think I got this, and you did, did. So, you know, we're gonna cut to a quick commercial, but we want to come back because I want to hear about your mom's reaction when you told her. All right, we'll be right back.
You will love SUSD. Don't believe us? Just watch. In Sunnyside Unified School District, students dream big, learn boldly, and grow confidently. From hands-on STEM and arts programs to student athletes earning athletic scholarships, Sunnyside District gives every student a place to shine. Enrollment for the 26-27 school year is now available. Enroll today at susd12.org.
So I'm here with Josue. He is the Dorrance Scholar recipient, and he's graduating from Desert View High School this year, class of 2026. So we were talking about, you know, your interview and, you know, all those individuals that helped you out, your counselors, Ms. Benavides, and the counseling department, and your teachers, and just, you know, the whole experience that you've had here at Desert View. But take us to the moment where you shared, when you found out the news, you know, what was your reaction when you found out? You know, did you get was it an email? Did you get a letter in the mail? And then how did you share that with your family?
Yeah, so it was actually pretty funny. I was waking up from a sleepover at my friend's house, and I got an email, and I immediately took a screenshot of it, and I sent it to my mom. I was really happy. I was like, wow, like, this feels like all my hard work really paid off. And I just thought about how much it'd mean to my mom, so I sent it to her first. I sent it to Miss Benavides. I sent it to everyone who was on the way there to support me. It felt like I finally paid back maybe like a fraction of what my mom did for me and my siblings. Yeah. Like, it felt like I was finally doing something that felt really meaningful to her. And she showed that. Like, she was really happy for me. She was really proud. All of my family was congratulating me, like, left and right. And it just felt like one of the most, like, fulfilling and, like, proudest moments of my life.
Yeah, but it was a bunch of relief, too,
yeah,
right? Just
a bunch of relief.
That,
sure.
You know, you had this paid for. So tell us, what are you going to study? Like, where are you going to school? What are you going to study? What are your plans here?
Yeah, so I got in the honors college at the U of A. I'm going to major in biochemistry. And I have a lot of things planned out for the summer that Dorrance actually plans for you. Like, this summer, I'm going to be living in a dorm, which they chose to pay for. And you do a bunch of classes to get your core classes out of the way and stuff like that. And then I have some research opportunities from that program I did earlier in junior year.
Mm-hmm. What's the program called? Do you know what it's called?
It was called SIMI by Dr. Whitty.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have the study abroad program that they pay for. It's like 3 months, and you get to study like mythology there and like classics.
Are you doing it this summer?
That'll be my sophomore summer going to June.
Summer.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I have a lot of exciting opportunities there. I want to
Can
get
you
a lot of
take
research.
Can you take
done.
anybody along with you, or?
I wish.
I'm
I wish.
joking. Well, cool. I mean, it sounds like you are off and running. You're set. It's obviously you got a bright future, and man, there's a lot to be proud of. So, congratulations. That's
Thank
pretty
you.
cool.
Thank you so much.
So, shifting over here to Anysa Medrano. She is the Gates Millennium Scholarship recipient, and so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anysa. I mean, again, in wearing my principal hat here, we've had several Gates scholars through Desert View, and again, you are continuing that trend. And I say that because I do want people out in the community to know that Desert View kids earn some prestigious scholarships, and they do it year in and year out, right? And so you're proof of that. You guys are both Sunnyside products. You got to Desert View in different ways. Josue went to Craycroft Lawford, then here, and then you went to Elvira Challenger, and then landed here at Desert View. But Gates Millennium Scholar is probably one of the, if not the most, one of the best scholarships out there that pays for absolutely everything, right? I mean, up to your bachelor's, your master's. If you want to go earn your doctoral degree, it pays for that. You study abroad. So I can't even put a price tag. Is there a price tag on that scholarship?
Honestly, no.
Right? It's basically a blank check, right? To say, hey, go use it for whatever you want, and Mr. Bill Gates has it taken care of, right? Bill and Melinda Gates have it taken care of. And so, I know for you, you've been pretty locked in ever since you got into high school.
Before that, yeah.
Even before that,
Yeah.
probably, you definitely strike me as that person that's a perfectionist that wants everything to go perfect, and you're going to go get what you want. And, and I'm going to ask Josue this here in a little bit, but I just kind of want to read this little bio here because I want people to understand how hard you've worked. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I stole this off our website, and we're seeing all our seniors post their scholarships, post the schools they got accepted to, and all this. So you got accepted to some pretty prestigious schools. So let me start with scholarships first, and I know I may miss one or two, but you're the Gates Millennium Scholar, you got the ASU President Scholarship. You got the Arizona Promise Scholarship. You got the Wildcat Scholarship, and you're also a Dollars for Scholars recipient. And you got the Verigy Scholarship there, which is one of the highest scholarships is the highest for Dollars for Scholars, right? Is that correct? Did I miss any?
I also got the ALK's Most Valuable Scholarship as well, and that one was pretty cool. Yeah.
And the ALK's Most Valuable Scholar. So. This young lady has piled up, what is it, $2.5 million in scholarships approximately?
I think so, yeah.
2.5 million. So she's giving out loans, she's giving out scholarships. I'm kidding. But, you have...
One day.
One day, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So, the other exciting news is I want to announce that she is going to attend Princeton University, right? Ivy League school in the fall. And so that is just... remarkable. I mean, what an honor, right, to be accepted to an Ivy League school. Again, Desert View kids can do hard things. Sunnyside Unified School District kids can do hard things. Again, not the first Ivy Leaguer, but just, again, continuing the trend and making Desert View a strong place. So not only were you accepted to Princeton, you were accepted to Colgate. You were accepted to University of Arizona. You were accepted to Smith College. You were accepted to Wake Forest University. You were accepted to University of Washington. Is it Washington University or University of Washington?
Washington University in St. Louis, yeah.
You were accepted to Washington University, Arizona State University, Northwestern University. I'm probably missing some, right?
I think that's
Is that pretty much all of them?
Yeah.
So when you talk about choices, you got choices here, right? And you have a pathway of to go to any school pretty much that you want, and it's paid for. I think one of the things I want you to share with the listeners is talk us through this crazy amount of colleges and universities you've been accepted to. I mean, I think I applied for 2 when I was in high school. It was Pima and the U of A, right? And so, but you've applied to a bunch of these colleges and you've gotten accepted. So, talk us through a little bit about, one is the Gates Millennium Scholarship. Talk to us about that, because I want listeners to know what that experience is like, and then talk to us about how you went about applying for all these colleges, and you didn't limit yourself. You put yourself out there. So, go right ahead into it.
Yeah, so, okay, first I'll start with the Gates. So like Mr. Gastelum said, the Gates Scholarship is a really hard scholarship to get. I believe there was 61,000 applicants this year and only 750 got selected. Therefore, the application process is very tedious. It's 3 phases. The first phase is they ask you about your income because they want to make sure that you are actually deserving for it financially. And then the second phase is essays. And those essays were some of the hardest essays I've ever written. There was, I believe, 5 of them, and they're 600 word essays, so they're not short by any means. And they're the kind of essays that really make you think. I think one of them was, if you were on Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, what would you be on there for? So, in that moment, I was like, ooh, I don't really know. But then I obviously answered it. And then the next phase is an interview.
So what did you say? I'm curious now. You left everybody curious.
Sorry.
You didn't talk about your Dunkin' Donut experience or anything like that, right? You talked about something way up here, right? So what did you say? If you were one of the 100 most influential, what did you pick?
I guess I'll say this now. So my intended career path is probably research, oncology research. And so I've been able to do a lot of research opportunities in the past, and they've all been really meaningful because most of them have been here in Tucson or in more rural areas. And so in my essay, I talked about how I wanted to, or how I think I would be known for my research. I think I would find a biomarker for cancer, and not just find that biomarker, but also use because I'm also big on policies, politics, so I would love to advocate for people in more marginalized communities, kind of like Tucson itself, and represent them, and make sure that, science isn't just a subject, but a tool for accountability and justice. So, yeah, that's what I talked about.
Bam! Drop the mic right there. No, seriously, that is super, super impressive and super just unselfish, right? I mean, obviously, you want to make a difference in the world, and you understand that it's just not one thing. It's not only the science, but it's the advocacy, right? Advocacy for people, for communities, and there hasn't been a breakthrough in science that has a cure for cancer yet, right? I mean, there's a lot of work, but I think everybody's been impacted by it one way or another, and it's awesome that you're thinking that. And I didn't mean to take you off track, but I want to let's go back to the Gates Millennium Scholarship, and you wrote your essays. Let's go from there, pick it up from there.
So the essays section, and then the third phase is an interview. My interview, I got super lucky. It was in person, which they don't do very often. So I was actually able to meet with my interviewer here in Tucson, and we just talked. That was probably kind of similar to Josue's experience. I left that interview feeling really good. I was just being myself, and I think that's what helped. I talked about this with so many teachers, too. They're like, oh, how do you prepare? And I think just kind of brushing it off, going into it oh, this is just something, and if it doesn't happen, then it's not meant for me. I think that kind of mentality has helped me. So, yeah, the interview went really well. And then that's kind of the application process. And as far as the way I found out, I found out in about late April that I was a recipient of the scholarship. And I was actually at the airport when I found out. I was with my mom. We were sitting down. We had just gotten back from one of my college visits. We were visiting Northwestern. And, yeah, it was... I remember opening the email and I just started crying because, I mean, yeah, I had always wondered since I was little, since I think the goal for college, was third grade. Like, actually, I've always been ambitious, but I, like, actually started caring then.
Yeah.
And
who did you just research that on your own, or did somebody tell you you need to go to college, or was it somebody that you looked up to? I mean, because in third grade, I mean, I was just worried about whether we'd have chocolate milk for lunch, you know, and or not. And so, you know, you're thinking about college in third grade. I was just thinking about college in fifth grade. Man, like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so I have a really big family, and it was graduation for one of them, and I remember seeing, I don't remember who it was, but I saw the valedictorians, and I heard their speeches, and I heard their stories and the scholarships that they were receiving, and just seeing that, it was never about, like, it was more, for me, it wasn't about that title, it was about the generational breakthrough. So seeing them, like, it was just about representation. Seeing them, students like me, who look like me, who talk like me, who are from the same area as me, like, seeing that.
It just grabbed your attention.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, like, I want to do that. I can do that. So I'm going to do everything to try and do it. And, well, also my upbringing, too. I think that helped a lot to motivate me, my mom, my family. But yeah.
Awesome. So tell us about... Let's talk a little bit about Princeton. I mean, obviously, you've applied to all these schools, and you have the qualifications, and you have choices. I mean, I don't want to say that, like, lightly, because it's hard work. I mean, you had to put in a lot of hard work to apply to all these colleges and get accepted. You weren't taking no chances. You were making sure that you were going to land somewhere. Tell us the story about Princeton University, right? Like, why did you decide to apply there? Did you apply to all the Ivy League schools? Tell us a little bit about where you wanted to go. Was this your top choice? Was it not? And then how did you find out about this?
Okay, so I actually forgot to mention this in, like, my last little section, but the reason why, or the reason how, I guess I should say, I could not have done this without, similar to Josue's response, my teachers and people here at Desert View, but my tremendous support system were my TRIO program and my STEP program. They were the ones who helped me find all of these scholarships too. So to all the listeners, to all the families, I recommend taking part in these programs whenever you can.
We got to advocate for TRIO and get that back, right?
Absolutely.
So big shout out to Pima College and the TRIO program for the work they've done with our students, because I've heard that several times from different students now. So
yeah. So yeah, I couldn't have done that without them. Just wanted to say that. And as far as the schools I applied to, I applied to the ones that, of course, had a good major, but what I was really looking for was the community, because I think Tucson in itself has a very strong sense of community. You know, we have a bunch of festivals here. We have neighbors who become families, protests that rise in defense for justice. Like, I really love Tucson for the people. And so when I was looking for my colleges, that's what I wanted. I wanted places that would allow me to hear diverse perspectives, but also allow me to share my own. And so I applied to, my dream school for a while was Duke University, and I applied early decision, and I got deferred. Man. And this is, like, just the truth. This is how it goes. Yeah. You're gonna get rejected, you're gonna get deferred, and it's hard, but you just have to keep going. So that's exactly what I did. I, carried my head on my shoulders strongly.
I don't know about those Blue Devils, right?
Yeah, maybe I just was never meant to be a Blue Devil. Like, yeah. But, so yeah, I got deferred, and then after I was like, okay, now I actually have to start all of my other applications. And so at that point, I was just grinding out. I was writing essays, doing everything. And
was that the only university you had applied for at the time?
No.
When that happened?
So with step 2, they also were like, you should always apply, like, to other ones. Never just put all your eggs in one basket. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to do that. Right. So then I applied, and I remember, ironically, my Princeton one was the last one I had written. And I wrote it in the parking lot at Dunkin' Donuts because
were you on break or right before work? I'm kidding. That's not important.
It was right before work, but yeah, I had kind of put that one off for a while just because this is where we talk about imposter syndrome. Yes. I didn't really, like I always said, I could never see myself at an Ivy. I don't know if I can do it. And especially with some experiences that I've had in the past with summer programs, I was just like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. But I ended up applying no matter what. And yeah, I mean, it worked out. I had an interview before I actually found out about anything, and that was one of the best interviews ever. The guy was perfect, like, in terms of personality. He explained the community, and then I got to visit Princeton, and that's when I was like, wow, like, I do belong.
Awesome. So what, it's, how did you convince yourself, because you're right. I mean, I want you to talk a little bit about that imposter syndrome. I think it exists with everyone at some point, right?
Absolutely.
But it's that, and I thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story, because you just saying being deferred at Duke obviously was something that probably you took very hard, and that was your first choice, and so you have to face that adversity, right? And say, okay, well, I could either complain about it or I can do something about it. But it sounds like that motivated you even more to say, screw Duke, I'm going to go over here and well, you probably didn't say that, but I'm saying that, screw Duke, and I'm going to go over here and apply for all these other colleges, right? And so, and then you land at Princeton University. So tell us about when you heard the news, right? Like when you got it, and how did that make you feel? How did you share that with your family?
Yeah, so I think this is important to mention too. So after I had gotten deferred from Duke, it was like, there's a timeline when college decisions start coming out, and my first one was Boston College, and it was a rejection. Then after that, it was another rejection, and then a wait list. So I was really starting to feel hopeless, and then the acceptances started coming in, and then that last one was Princeton, or actually the last one was Duke, because deferral is like, your decision is being postponed to the regular decision. Mm-hmm. But Princeton was one of my last ones, and I remember it was Ivy Day. I got home from school. Mm-hmm. I was really anxious, so I just took a nap, and then I sat at the kitchen table at my Nana's house, and I was so over it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why am I doing this? Like, there's no point. And I was recording. My Nana and my mom were behind me, and then I just remember opening the letter, and then while I started bawling my eyes out, I'm hugging my mom, my Nana's crying, like, we're all crying, and yeah, it was just a really special moment.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, for sure. I can't even imagine as a grandparent and a parent, just sharing that moment with your child, for both of you, sharing that moment, that you guys did this, like, you did this, and you did it. I know you did it with a lot of help, but you did a lot of it on your own too, right? And so it's just a beautiful story to hear, and you're going to be a Princeton Tiger, and super cool. It's inspiring. Both of you guys are an inspiration to the young students out there, to the underclassmen, and so I want to thank you guys for sharing your stories. I think one of the things that, and I think you hit on it, Anysa, is you're going to get deferred. You're going to get rejected to some of the colleges, especially if you're applying to a lot of them. And it's so quirky what they look for in terms of who they want, who they accept. Mm-hmm. As I always tell the story of Lisandro Jimenez, who was one of the top students here at Desert View when I was a principal. I remember him being so bummed out that he had been denied by Cal State University. And a couple days later, or a week later, he gets into MIT University, right? And it's like, well, look, it was meant to be, right? And you're going to probably a better university now, and so, it just reminds us that things don't always go as planned, right? And so you always have to, just get back up on your feet and keep pushing forward, and you guys are definitely great examples of that. And so, congratulations to the both of you. You guys got such amazing stories. I can't wait to see, where you guys land. I know you guys are both going to be very, very successful. I always tell people, don't forget where you come from, right? Come and pay it forward to your community. But I do want to, as we're wrapping up here, I want to talk a little bit about, those people that have been, and you guys have hit on it a little bit, but, two things. What's your message to the students out there, to the parents out there that are going to be, coming to high school, and then who are those people that were influential for you? What kind of advice do you have for our listeners? So we'll start with Josue, and then we'll go to Anysa here.
Yeah, so I think one of the most influential people, other than my mom to me, it's actually like an online friend I met over a pandemic. I met him playing Minecraft. His name's Ben, but he's always been super passionate about telling me to be passionate. I think that's one of the biggest things that I would say to incoming freshmen is like everything that you do and like everything that you kind of want to do. I think the biggest thing is it's a little outdone, but like ask yourself why. I don't think people think about it enough, but I think one of the biggest issues I see today is people just trying to get by doing the easiest thing. And I think that ends up like people live a really like unfulfilling life, where sure they're successful, but like at what cost? I feel like a lot of people don't fully enjoy what they're doing, and it was just based on the image that they wanted to become, I guess. But I feel like if nothing's personal to you, then it's not meaningful. And I think that's like really a loss of an opportunity for your life. Like you could have explored so much more. So at the start of my freshman year, I was that kind of person. I didn't do a lot of the things that I was passionate about, and I did a lot of things that just looked good. I dropped a lot of things starting like sophomore, junior year. I got into tennis. I was just trying things out. Like I could have definitely taken like AP Spanish or classes like that, but I wanted to stay in band, even if it was dropping my GPA, because it averages that down. So stuff like that, like I was always thinking about like what's really going to make me a better person in 10 years. And I think it's definitely just staying passionate, staying really proactive about what you're doing, like thinking about how it's really shaping you as a person rather than how it's just going to make you look for that 1 year. Just really just keep asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? And what meaning does it have to me and for the others around me?
So it sounds like it's identifying the why, right? Identifying the why and not settling, right? And I think a lot of times people do settle, right? Because that's the easiest thing to do is to settle, right? To say, all right, I guess that's okay. I can live with that, right? When there's bigger and better things you can do if you just put your mind to it, right? If you stick to it, stay the course, as they say. So any shout outs, any teachers, any coaches, counselors that you wanted to give a last shout out to as we wrap up here?
I think definitely Mr. Campbell. He's probably been one of my biggest inspirations. He was my math teacher and my tennis coach. I failed his first math test, and I kept talking about redoing the test, and he just kept pushing me to learn about the next unit instead of just like staying back on the past one. And like he just has such a driving inspiration kind of message to everything he does. Like he always wants you to push forward and not linger on old things. He's really inspirational and motivational in everything that he does.
Cool. Shout out to Mr. Campbell. I think I hired him back in the day. I'm going to take credit for that one. All right. So Anysa, same question to you. You know, who was your support systems, or not really support systems, because I think you've covered a lot of that, but, anybody you want to give a shout out to out there that really helped you? And again, what's your message to our listeners, whether they're parents or students or incoming high schoolers?
Yeah, so for my message, I think it's so easy to kind of fall into the stereotypes at times, and it's very hard to be an Arizona public school student, I won't lie, but you can't fall into those stereotypes because, and if there's anything I've learned, especially here at Desert View, is that we don't fall into those stereotypes. We prove ourselves and we always come back. So don't be afraid of failure, don't be afraid of rejection, because like they say, it really is redirection. Like, you're meant to fail, and it's only monumental for your success. And I guess to the parents, just never stop believing in your kids and supporting them. I know my mom with me, a mindset she always had is she never expected anything from me. she just always wanted me to live my life. So take that how you will. And as far as my shout outs, I could go on and on, but I'll keep it short. Thank you to Mr. Alcantara, Ms. Lopez, Mr. Betteridge, and Mr. Campbell. And then thank you to my best friends, Ariel, Zazu, and Junior.
Awesome. That's coming from the top student, right? Top student at Desert View High School. I believe you finished number 1 in your class, and that's just it's just awesome, right? To know. But I think what's also important is just recognizing how successful this 2026 class has been, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of their academic success, and you guys did all this, and we didn't even hit on this, but you guys were, Josue, you were in band, you were tennis, you were working at Cinemark Theater, and Anysa, we were joking about Dunkin' Donuts, but you're running Dunkin' Donuts over there. You're working at Dunkin' Donuts, playing soccer, playing tennis, and so you guys had full schedules and still managed to do this. But I think part of high school success is getting involved, right? And you got to get involved in your school, got to get involved in things that motivate you and push you, and so you guys are just excellent stories of what Desert View graduates and Sunnyside Unified School District students can do. And again, I said this earlier, our kids can do hard things, and they continue to do hard things, and they continue to be successful. So I want to congratulate both of you. I feel like Sunnyside has prepared you. I feel like you've prepared yourself, and you have very, very bright futures. And I would love to do a podcast with both of you in 4 years and see what you guys are doing, and that would be so cool. So, with that, we're going to be signing off here. We want to congratulate our 2026 Desert View graduates, but also our Dorrance Scholar and our Gates Scholar. And so congratulations, and that concludes this episode of Somos Sunnyside. Hasta la próxima. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it entertaining. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and share our podcast with la comunidad. For updates on future episodes and more, be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at susd12.org. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you back for the next episode. Hasta la próxima vez en Somos Sunnyside.